The rain came like punishment from the sky, pounding the rusty rooftops of the student hostel like angry fists. Inside a cramped room lit only by a flickering bulb, Aurora sat on her bed, legs crossed, arms hugging a pillow that no longer smelled like home. Her phone buzzed with another message from the hospital: "Bring the money today or your mother will be discharged." But discharged meant abandoned. She checked her bank app again, Nigerian Naira 38. That couldn't even buy paracetamol. Her eyes were tired, her throat dry from holding back tears. Outside, thunder cracked, louder than gunshots. She wondered if this was how madness started, not with screaming, but with silence and pressure. She stood up, paced the room, then opened her wardrobe. All that was inside were worn clothes and a half-eaten biscuit from 2 days ago. The ceiling leaked over her mattress. She stared up at the water dripping, 1, 2, 3. She counted like she could time her misery. But time wasn't on her side. And as the lightning flashed again, a shadow moved outside her window, slow, tall, and waiting. She didn't scream. She couldn't. Her heart just paused. Because that shadow had been standing there for hours. Everyone knew Aurora as the girl who smiled even when everything was burning. The church girl who never wore makeup but whose beauty still pulled glances. She wasn't loud, but she had presence. Her lecturers liked her, her friends admired her. But no one knew that every night she cried into a pillow soaked with fear. Her father had died when she was 12, and since then, life had taught her how to survive, but never how to breathe easy. Now, with her mother's lungs failing in the hospital and the bills climbing like vines around her neck, Aurora was suffocating in plain sight. She had sold all her jewelry, skipped meals, even borrowed money from classmates she barely liked. Nothing worked. The landlord had banged on her door that morning with fire in his voice. "Today or out," he said, and meant it. But what scared her most wasn't the landlord or the hospital or even the hunger, it was the shadow. It came every night for the past 3 days. It didn't move, didn't speak. Just stood across the road, under the mango tree. Watching. Waiting. Like it was counting down to something she couldn't name. She decided to confront it. That night, as the clock hit 1 a.m. and the wind howled like a crying spirit, Aurora stepped outside. Her feet were bare, the cold concrete biting at her soles. The shadow was still there. Tall. Still. Dressed in all black. He stood like he owned the night, his face hidden beneath a wide hat. Her heart thumped like a village drum. "Who are you?" she whispered, not expecting an answer. But he raised one hand slowly and pointed down the road. No words. Just the hand. And then he turned and began walking. Something told her to go back inside. But her feet didn't listen. She followed. The road was empty, no streetlights, only the moon guiding her like a ghost lantern. They walked past the old kiosk, the broken bridge, the abandoned classroom block. Then they reached a parked black car, long like a limousine but older, too old for any rich man to still drive. He opened the door for her and nodded. And like a girl under a spell, Aurora stepped in. She didn't know where they were going. But she knew she had just said goodbye to the life she used to know. The drive was silent. No music, no talking, just the low hum of an engine that sounded like it belonged to something not fully human. Aurora sat stiffly, her hands trembling on her lap. Her phone had no signal. The man driving didn't glance at her once. He wore gloves. His face was still hidden. Trees flew past the windows, tall and twisted, like arms reaching out to snatch her away. After what felt like hours, they reached a giant gate made of iron and wood. It creaked open slowly, revealing a compound so large it felt like a forgotten kingdom. The mansion ahead looked ancient, stone walls, cracked pillars, and statues of animals with eyes that followed her. The driver stopped. Wordlessly, he got out, opened her door, and pointed to the steps. Something in Adora wanted to run. But the rest of her, the tired, broke, desperate part, walked forward. The mansion's front doors opened before she touched them. Inside, candles flickered along the walls. The air smelled of herbs and blood. And at the end of the long hallway stood Chief Dyke, tall, regal, wrapped in red silk, and with wounds running across his chest like maps of pain. He did not smile. He simply raised his hand and said, "You came." His voice was deep, soft, dangerous. He didn't ask her name. Didn't ask why she came. He only turned and walked through the hallway, expecting her to follow. She did. They entered a room filled with mirrors, but all of them were shattered. A single bed sat in the middle, covered in white. He sat on the edge and slowly unwrapped the silk from his body. The wounds were many. Deep, red, and glowing. Some looked fresh. Others, ancient. "Kiss them," he said, his voice almost tender. "It is the only way to heal them." Adora froze. Was this a joke? A ritual? A trap? He continued, "1 kiss each night for 7 nights. In return, I will give you all that you ask." She wanted to laugh, or cry, or run. But then she remembered her mother on that hospital bed. The 38 Nigerian nairas in her bank. The eviction notice on her wall. So she knelt. Closed her eyes. And placed her lips on the first wound. It was warm. Wet. And it whispered her name. She stumbled out of the mansion an hour later, the air sharp with the scent of wet leaves and secrets. The driver was waiting. He didn't speak, just drove. By the time she reached her hostel, morning had begun to break, painting the sky a ghostly blue. She collapsed on her bed, heart racing. Her lips still tingled. Her hands shook. But her phone buzzed, ***, hospital bills cleared. "Thank you, donor." She gasped. Checked her bank app, 250,000 Nigerian nairas. Her rent was paid. Her debts cleared. All within hours. It was real. It was working. But it came at a cost. The next day felt like a miracle wrapped in madness. Her classmates stared at her with wide eyes, some in awe, others in fear. She wore new clothes. She looked brighter. More powerful. Her walk had changed. Her presence filled the room like perfume. People whispered her name like it meant something ancient. But inside, she was cracking. She hadn't eaten. Her appetite was gone. Water tasted like metal. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears constantly. And her lips? They kept tingling, burning, like something had been branded there. Still, she returned to the mansion that night. She had to. The second wound was bigger. Uglier. As she kissed it, something moved beneath his skin. Something alive. It wriggled against her mouth. She didn't scream. She just knelt there, like a statue carved from fear. When it was done, Chief Dyke whispered, "You are almost ready." And behind him, the broken mirrors began to hum. By the third day, Adora no longer recognized her own voice. It sounded layered, like more than one person speaking through her. Every night, the mansion seemed to change, more statues appeared, the halls grew longer, the candles flickered with blue fire. And Chief Dyke's wounds were spreading. He said they needed her. That only her lips could awaken the final gate. Whatever that meant. Adora wanted to stop. But the gifts were too good. And the price of quitting? She didn't even want to imagine. On the 4th night, something new happened. She had kissed 4 wounds. There were 3 more. And something inside her whispered that if she kissed the 7th, she would never be Adora again. That night, as she tried to sleep, a knock came at her door. 3 soft taps. She opened it slowly, and found an old woman with eyes like fire. She introduced herself as Mama Aji, the last herbalist of the river tribe. She said nothing at first, just stared into Adora's soul. Then she whispered, "You kissed him." Adora trembled. "You still have time," Mama Aji said. "But only if you know what you are really kissing. His wounds are not wounds. They are doors." And before Adora could ask anything, the woman vanished into the night, leaving behind a single white feather, and the scent of danger. On the fifth night, the driver no longer waited for her. Instead, a trail of red feathers led her from the gate to the front door, and the door swung open by itself, welcoming her like a mouth opens for food. She stepped inside, heart pounding. The hallway no longer had candlelight. Now, there were floating orbs, glowing faintly, casting shadows that danced like spirits. As she walked, her footsteps no longer echoed. The silence swallowed them. Each room she passed had no mirrors, only broken glass arranged like eyes. The air was thick, like honey and blood. And at the end of the hall, Chief Dyke stood, his back turned, shirtless, wounds glowing red like hot coal. He didn't speak. He only raised his hand, pointing to a new room, one Adora had never seen. She stepped inside, and the door locked behind her with a sound that felt like the end of a story. This room was different. Warmer. Too warm. The floor was covered in black velvet, and the walls pulsed like living flesh. In the center stood a long table, and on it lay a body-shaped figure made of glass. It reflected her, but not like a normal mirror. In this reflection, she was taller, her eyes darker, her lips stained red. This version of her smiled, mocking. Around the room, small mirrors hung in perfect circles. None showed her reflection. All showed different girls, some crying, some screaming, some kneeling with blood on their mouths. Adora's breath caught in her throat. She wasn't the first. She would not be the last. Chief Dyke entered the room silently. His voice was low, almost sad. "This is the room of memories," he said. "All those who served me once stood where you stand. But none were you." His wounds dripped slowly onto the floor. The fifth wound glowed like fire on his chest. This one had no shape, only heat. "You may kiss it," he whispered. "Or you may leave. But if you leave, all I have given you will turn to dust." And behind him, the glass figure laughed. Adora's knees buckled. Her skin crawled. But her mind spun faster than fear could catch her. She thought of her mother, now walking again. Of the money in her account. Of the fear in her enemy's eyes. Could she walk away from all of that? Or was she already too deep in the river to swim back? She stepped forward slowly. The fifth wound throbbed like a heartbeat. As her lips neared it, the air in the room thickened. The glass figure on the table gasped. Mirrors shattered without being touched. When she kissed the wound, pain shot through her skull like lightning. Her body arched. Her fingers twitched. Her lips bled. She fell backward, screaming without sound. On the sixth night, the mansion was alive. The walls breathed. The floor throbbed. The air was hot and sticky. This time, Chief Dyke did not wait in the hallway. He was already in the ritual room. His wounds were glowing with violent light. His eyes were red. His voice was weak. "The sixth wound is the deepest. It lies not on my chest, but in my mouth." He opened his mouth wide. Inside, past his teeth, was a pulsing wound, red, raw, hungry. "One kiss," he whispered. "One last gift." Adora stared into that endless hole. She leaned forward. The heat was unbearable. And when her lips touched it, she didn't feel skin, she felt eternity. Everything went black. She was falling. Falling through fire, through blood, through screams. When she landed, she was standing in a river. Not water, blood. The sky was purple. The trees had no leaves. A voice spoke, not from around her, but from inside her. You belong to us now. She turned and saw Chief Dyke, only now he was taller, darker, crowned in bones. He smiled with too many teeth. You kissed me, he said. Now I can live in you. She screamed. But her voice was not hers. Everything had changed. Her skin was cold. Her eyes reflected flame. And in the mirror that hadn't worked for days, she finally saw her reflection. Only it wasn't her. It was him. Smiling. She ran. Out of the room, into the streets, barefoot, breathless. People stared, but no one helped. She reached a church and tried to enter, but the door refused to open. Her hand burned when it touched the wood. Inside, a statue of an angel cracked in half. She screamed and ran again. Her body felt like it was carrying something heavy inside. Her thoughts were no longer her own. She began to remember things she never lived, wars, sacrifices, fires, ancient temples. His memories were merging with hers. She didn't know who she was anymore. She fell near a shrine at the edge of town, weeping. And that's when she saw the white feather again. It floated down from the sky like hope. Mama Aji appeared behind her, face stern, voice sharp. You kissed 6 wounds. The 7th will swallow your soul. But there is still one way. One last hope. But it will hurt more than anything you've ever known.